Joshua Nitaki Esel has spent about 45 minutes walking the neighborhood of Mempasam, a suburb of Accra, in search for a place to lay his head. He is knocking on doors without the help of an agent because, once upon a time, a friend of his was defrauded of some 3,500 Ghana cedis by an agent without the accommodation he paid for.
So you get a very nice place with probably very moderate price that you can afford, and the proximity becomes a problem. If you decide to also get a place where the proximity is cool, it's either the house is probably a waterlogged area, it has a bathhouse on a gutter or something. There's no perfect. If we are going to rent a house, you want a perfect. You have an ideal way that you want to have that particular accommodation, but then unfortunately, it's very hard for you to get that ideal place that you want to be a single self-contained room where you can afford. It's very hard.
Having lived much of his life in Takoradi in the western region until he landed admission at the University of Ghana 5 years ago, Joshua has no choice but to find an accommodation now, as his national service period comes to an end soon and he cannot continue to patch his friends.
So far, I visited about 5 homes, and then the narrative has been the same. Most of them, so the other 5 homes I visited, apart from one that gave me a location to a next place I might get accommodation, the rest said there were no vacancies. And even if there were, the rents range between 150 a month to 200. And the challenge that ran through all of them was they all complained about here being a little bit waterlogged. And you know, when a landowner says or a landlord says a little bit, it's a very big problem. And as you can see for your eyes, you can see that even with the small rains here, there's still waters around. And then the other thing too was that there was no single place that I've seen yet that is self-contained. That means that had the bathhouse and the toilet inside the room. All of them, you would either share both the toilet and the bathhouse with your neighbors.
Joshua continues his search for accommodation. Away from a poorer-looking side of Mempasam, he braves the odds to dial numbers advertised on buildings that are likely to be priced in dollars. But none of his calls get answered. Some 25 minutes away from Mempasam is a gated community that Joshua says is everything he dreams of and more. But for a national service person who earns a little over 500 Ghana cedis as allowance, dreaming is not enough.
Fresh graduate, no, we don't have any of such people here, because a fresh graduate will probably be earning around 1,008, 2,000, 2,005. And then the rent for the smallest unit here, it's around 1,800. So I don't think it's feasible for somebody to be earning 1,008 and will want to turn that into rent. Even though the rent packages here are very flexible, you just need to have a year's rent agreement, but you can actually pay in 3 months in that matter.
That was Chief Executive of CPL Developers, owners of this estate at Nanakom in Accra. I suggest to Stephen that government takes up pro-poor housing on large scale, as private developers like him often have profit motive that may not support graduates like Joshua. But he lists failed government projects to suggest that a collaboration between the private sector and government may deliver for Ghanaians the affordable housing we crave.
Housing Finance Africa. Now this figure is so staggering. In the fact that this is a country of over 30 million people, and we have a deficit of 1.7 million. Ghana housing stock is still less than 4 million. It presupposes that one house probably we're going to have about 7 households in one house. That's what the statistic is showing. Looking at successive government and then their intervention in direct build of affordable housing has never been the solution, and it can't not be the solution. I'm saying this because in 2006 we saw the initiative of the then NPP government coming up with Ghana Affordable Housing Program that was actually built at 6 different locations, Pone here, Botema, Asokore Mampong, Wa, and other areas. None of those properties were able to be completed. And in 2012, we also saw another government starting with the Saglemi one, which like you've rightly mentioned, it's only 1,500 housing units that they are still struggling to finish.
The $200 million project was supposed to see the construction of 5,000 housing units. The first phase, however, is 1,500 housing units. A little over 600 units are said to have been completed by the previous government. But upon my arrival here, I am greeted with huge empty buildings covered by weeds. The facility is under audit over claims of financial infractions. Government officials have promised the state of the projects and the auditing processes are in the best interest of Ghanaians. For Joshua, the location of the project now is a problem, but he is unhappy that while he struggles to find a decent accommodation, the Saglemi Housing project continues to waste away. Currently, only 10% of graduates are estimated to land jobs in the first year after school. In these COVID times, however, fewer employers are employing. But even if any fresh graduate will land a job, basic salaries before COVID ranged between 1,000 to 1,800 Ghana cedis. Joshua wants government to consider a package that can make it possible for the young middle-class Ghanaian to afford decent spaces like these.
Not everyone can afford to live at a place like Saglemi, because probably if I'm working Saglemi, if I'm working in a place in East Legon, I like to be close to the place than a very far place. So even if government has affordable houses at very distant places, I think there's still a need for government to partner with these private investors at a more moderate prices at their various places. So either way, I feel government should work on the two of them at the same time, so that there would be affordable house that the government is going to own, but there's still going to be the one that is going to probably, let's say, a complex one with the private investor and government.
Ghana's population continues to balloon. The housing deficit will come under sharp focus even as we go into an electioneering period. What will be the account of the sitting government when it comes to housing the Ghanaian people? And moving forward, what plans do both political parties, the key ones, have to house our growing population? That's a question that many look forward to our leaders to answer. Caleb Kuda reporting for Citi News.